everybody. Thanks again for joining me. Today, I have with me Mitch Harrison. And Mitch just spoke at one of my recent Vistage meetings. Mitch, welcome. I'm glad that you could be with us.
Well, Scott, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mitch, you're one of the few people that I've had to my group twice. And so, right there, you're getting extra props for doing so well. I've invited you back. And I actually had one member of my group go, wow, what did he change in his presentation? Because it felt so much better even this time than it did last time. So, congratulations on your presentation.
Well, thanks. There is so much to talk about when it comes to this topic of how we're taking care of ourselves. And so probably was stuff that we added and changed a little bit because, man, the topic is broad and deep both.
Absolutely. And let's face it, the senior executives, small business owners, CEOs that I work with, some of them, you can just see it on their face. They've hit a wall. They're they're not hitting on all cylinders. They think maybe the more effort they put in, it's just got to be about the effort and not necessarily being able to manage it to their best ability. So, Mitch, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk about what you do that makes this work and how you enlighten senior executives.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I think you're right. Just to pick up on what you were talking about, so many times senior executives were taught how to run a business. They have learned how to manage people. They've done all the things that have made them successful in their work life, but nobody ever stopped to help them really understand how do you take care of yourself in the process. They spend so much of their time focused on taking care of other people. It really is such a noble thing that they're doing. But along the way, they start to realize, wow, maybe I haven't figured out how to take care of myself very well yet. And again, I never found a whole lot of people standing in line to tell you how to do that. And so a lot of times executives start guessing. They just do a little here and there to try to help themselves feel better. And a little here and there does not offset the amount of stresses and pressures that they're under in their work life. And so what I have discovered is just like we need a plan with anything else that we want to be good at, with anything that we really want to be able to measure, and especially anything that we want to succeed at, we really have to develop a plan when it comes to taking care of ourselves as well. A plan that has some identifiable pieces to it that we can go back to address how am I doing in each one of these areas, and is it giving me the things that I need to show up at my best? And so, what we've talked about talked about with your groups are these 5 things that we all need as pieces of the puzzle that keep us showing up at our best most of the time. The first one is obviously rest. And we talk about that a lot, of setting aside these periods of time that we call no work zones, times that we shut off the work and find something else to do. And there's all kinds of things we can do, but it really is starting to get in the habit of finding particular periods of time where we just shut off the work, where we say it's okay for me to stop working and get some rest.
I think that's almost hard and counterintuitive
Yeah.
for high functioning CEOs, business owners that they almost get pride out of the fact that I get up at so early and I'll work through the weekends, and it's almost a sense of pride and maybe false accomplishment that they let their batteries drain out.
Yeah, it really is. It's our American status symbol, right? You ask anybody, hey, how's things going? And the first word out of their mouth is, oh, busy, man, we're busy. As if to say, that tells you how successful we are because we're so busy. And yeah, but what I remind executives all the time is, look, if you have a car that doesn't start, that's a problem. But if you have a car that doesn't stop, that could be deadly. And it's the same way with each one of us. We know how to start working. The question is, do we know how to stop working so that we can get some of the rest that we need? Any high performance athlete you talk to knows that their strength increases only in times of rest. It decreases in times of stress when they're performing, when they're lifting weights, when they're running, when they're doing what an athlete does. Their strength is getting weaker.
Yep.
When you rest, that's when we recover our strengths and get a comeback stronger. And so that's why rest is such an important piece that we talk about.
And
Uh,
I think you nailed it when you said you got to have a plan for it, right?
yeah,
But I mean, I've seen so many schedules from executives and they're just planned out to the second. But I don't know hardly any that I've seen that is really structured in getting rest, disconnecting, connecting with others. But you make a good point.
yeah. We do have to add it to our plan. If you know, and that's the one good thing about executives most of the time is they're pretty good at managing their calendar. So if you can help them to identify places in their calendar to say, this is a place where I don't work, like Sunday afternoon, for instance, from say noon to, you know, mow the yard, pay the bills, whatever you got to do, and go to church, whatever you do on Sunday morning. But from noon till sundown, I just don't work. And just carving that out is a simple time to say, maybe I'll spend it with my kids and get some relationship stuff, which is another one of the pieces of the plan. Or maybe I'll go have some fun and get some recreation, another piece of the plan. But I'm not going to, whatever I'm doing, I'm not working. And to begin to set aside periods of time for rest and recovery so that we can come back at our best.
Yeah. So you said there were 5 pieces to this plan.
Yeah.
So getting rest is one. Tell
Yeah.
us about the others.
Yeah. So the second one I talk about is what I call release. And this is where we deal with the emotionally heavy things that we all carry. Every leader knows the decisions that they make, the hits that they often take, the criticism that comes their way, the things that they have to deal with as leaders that maybe other people just don't have to deal with, the hiring, the firing, that adds such a heavy emotional weight to us. And that's just on the work side. The personal side comes with an emotional weight as well when we worry about our kids or the health of our aging parents or things like that. Where do we release and unpack the heavy emotional weight and making a plan for that? Who do I talk to? When do I spend time to just identify what those weights are? We need some release. We also need what I call receive, which is times where we receive inspiration around our purpose. Uh, Most of the times, executives started their business or got into the business that they're in because they felt a deep sense of purpose about it. Let's go take this hill. Let's go accomplish this thing. But what often happens is the problems that they run into in doing that beats the living purpose right out of them. And they need some things on a regular basis that re-inspire them, that they receive some inspiration to keep their tank full. Then there's recreation, which is again one of the obvious ones. Let's go have some fun and do some things that are so fun they drag us away from work. And then let's get with some people. Let's have some relationship with people that matter deeply to us, that we just get to soak up and enjoy the goodness of those relationships. So yeah, rest and this release of emotionally heavy things, this receiving of inspiration, recreation, fun, and then the deep relationships that we have. Those 5 things begin to be a framework that we can then build a plan around and ask ourselves, what do I need in each one of those categories? And how often do I need them? Daily, weekly, monthly, periodically, quarterly or annually, and then build a plan of what I need to keep me showing up at my very best.
So going to relationships, I see a lot of the people that I work with are very good at surface relationships, right? They can, hey, how are you doing? How's your day? And then, they dive right in and they're not getting past the surface level issue. And I view that as one of the challenges that a lot of executives have.
Absolutely. And I think we come by it honestly. We deal in transactions all day long. Every phone call is a transaction. Every handshake across a boardroom table is a transaction. And so we get really good at these transactional relationships, but we begin to atrophy a bit in our authentic relationships. Now, those terms are not mine. Somebody else came up smarter than me, came up with those, we can see there's 2 different kinds of relationships there. And when we begin to atrophy in those authentic relationships, we start saying things like, man, nobody really knows me. Nobody really understands what I'm going through. Who is really for me, who just sits and listens to me, who cares about me. And we have to be good at those kind of relationships as well, not just the transactional relationships.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I was really impressed with, Mitch, is you, in our session, you actually had people put together a plan. You gave a sample plan, and then you said, okay, let's fill in the boxes of these five pillars of what you're preaching and make it work. So I felt that the team that I'm working with had very actionable takeaways from your presentation.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that. That really comes out of who I am. I need practical stuff. I mean, philosophical stuff is great, but man, when the rubber hits the road, I've got to be able to put something on a piece of paper or put something in my computer that's actually going to be a functioning guide for me that's going to be useful. I don't know about anybody else. I just don't have a lot of time for stuff that's not that useful to me. And having a tangible plan like this, I think a tool that we can actually use to help us get farther, to get there faster. Those are the kind of things that make a difference. And so that's the kind of thing that I like that helps me the most. And hopefully it's like you said, it's helpful to other people as well.
So Mitch, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Uh,
Yeah.
you worked with a lot of individuals over time. Can you think of a time where you you started working with an individual that was out of kilter in any one of those five areas, and what aha moment happened with that individual to get them back into balance, if you will? You don't have to give me a name, but try to pick a live example of somebody you've worked with that was maybe even gratifying for you when the light bulb went off for them.
Yeah. Man. One of the ones that was really kind of off the beaten path was um, had these dear friends of mine. He was an attorney, and he and his wife of many years just had great relationships. He was coming up on the end of his career and was getting ready to step into retirement, but they still had a few things left to do. But as we talked, they were both concerned that his wife had just over the years had kind of just grown deeply unhappy, not with their relationship. Their relationship was great. Not with their kids. Their kids were great. It was really difficult for her even to identify why she just had grown unhappy. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized she was just deeply tired, that she didn't take time for herself. So he and I were talking about this for him, but the more we talked about it, he said, "Could you come over our house and just across our kitchen table help us both with this?" And so I sat there at their kitchen table, he and his wife, and particularly with his wife, walking through this simple plan and helping her to develop a plan that got her the rest she needed, and found out that it was all around this one word, Scott. It was around the word permission.
Mhm.
She had never given herself permission to rest. Hey, my husband's working hard. He's an attorney. He's got pressure on him. So I should stay busy and I should keep going and I should never rest. And I should always have everything in order at home and take care of all the things needed there and in the things that she was doing in the community and other places, but never gave herself permission to rest. And so um, we sat across their kitchen table. She worked through a plan, and I would see her periodically, in months after that, and the smile that was on her face, the obvious joy that was kind of back into her life because she had been able to give herself permission to do some simple habits, to participate in some simple rhythms that helped her to find the rest that she needed. And now she's not so tired anymore, and it's just lighter in the way that she lives.
I certainly don't want to make this into a gender scenario, but there are a lot of women in my life that give and give so much
Yeah.
that they don't know when to maybe separate and focus on themselves. And their whole identity is giving. And there's got to be balance at the end of the day, or the giving can wear you down.
Yeah, absolutely. I've run into incredibly accomplished women in the business world that have what they call mom guilt, where they have real guilt about walking away from their kids in the morning and then real guilt about walking away from the work at night to be back with their families. And you can just see that developing into these really unhealthy cycles of I just work and then I go home and I work and I go to work and I work and I never stop working because there's always more work to do. And again, out of a very noble value of I am trying to do the things that I feel responsible for. And there just has to be some unlearning there and some permission giving there for them to say, you know, I can take some time for myself, not to be selfish, but to be caring for myself. It's one thing to be self-indulgent. It's another thing to take care of yourself. And those are two very different things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So Mitch, we could go on and on and on. Your presentation was a few hours, and I even after the few hours, I felt like there was more to be said and more to be done. But if somebody wants to learn more about what you're all about and your tools and maybe learning some of the presentations that you give, how do they get a hold of you, Mitch?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. Yeah, my practice is called Refill Coaching and Consulting. It's all about us being continually refilled so that we can show up at our best in the places where we want to show up at our best. And so it's easy to get a hold of me, just Mitch at refillcoaching.com. And somebody can email me there and or look at my website at refillcoaching.com and connect with me there.
Excellent. Mitch, thanks for spending time with me. Again, congratulations on a beautiful presentation to my group. And I look forward to sharing this with a lot of folks.
Great. Thanks. Scott, thanks. It was fun being with you all.
Absolutely. All the best.
Thank you.